Hey guys, welcome back to Sports Betting Truth, and today is opening day for baseball, so I'm sure there's a lot of people out there looking for videos on how to bet on baseball. Now, I have a lot of videos coming out that I have planned going forward about baseball and some 101 when it comes to making a baseball model and using statistics to analyze baseball for betting purposes, but I'm not quite there yet, so today is just going to be more of an overview on baseball betting and why it is so dangerous. But at the same time, if you're willing to put in the work, and it takes a lot of work, then it also, I believe, has the highest upside of any professional sport you can bet. Now, let me start off with the downside, because here's the deal with baseball. It's a very dangerous sport to bet on for the average person, and there's a lot of reasons why. I believe that without even looking at it from a statistical angle, it's very dangerous because it's the only sport going on in the summer, and there's a lot of games. You got games every day, about 14, 15 games almost every day. Only sport to bet on in the summer, so a lot of people are going to bet on baseball when they have no business doing so, and they're going to get themselves into trouble. Now, I said on this channel a lot of times that I believe that if you don't have a good model, then you don't stand a chance to win at any sport you bet on in the long run, and baseball is no exception. But I believe baseball is almost like a slot machine in a sense that when you're sitting at a slot machine in a casino, you keep pulling the lever. It's so easy to lose a lot of money quickly. And baseball is the same way with games every day, a lot of games every day, a lot of games to bet, a lot of different ways to bet. And it being the only sport going on, it can be like a slot machine in that it can take your money very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. That's why baseball is so dangerous, because a lot of people get bored, they bet baseball, they have no business doing so, and it becomes a vice almost, and you can be buried very quickly. Guys, if you do not know what you're doing when it comes to betting on baseball, don't do it. If you're going to bet on baseball when you have no business doing so, do it for fun. Do it within reason, because otherwise you're going to get buried. Trust me on this one. There's no way you can beat baseball without any kind of statistical model. I say that for every sport, but especially baseball. I hear it every year. People are tired of college basketball. They're tired of NBA. They can't wait for baseball to get started up. And then a month later, they're like, man, I can't wait for football season, because baseball is very difficult. It is very difficult. However, with that being said, there is a silver lining. I believe that unlike other sports, I'm going to say this with the NFL, I'm going to say it with NBA. I do not believe the NFL is beatable. Maybe it is, but if it is, I don't know how it would be done. And I could say the same about the NBA. Outside of player prop bets, I think the NBA is very tough as well. I would not endorse trying to beat either one of those sports. However, I do believe baseball, with the right amount of work and with a good model, is beatable. It is, if you're willing to put in the work. There's a reason why these sports books here in Las Vegas don't fear any NFL or NBA bettor. You can go up to any counter in a sports books here in Las Vegas and place a big bet on the NFL and NBA, and they won't sweat it. However, they do fear good baseball bettors, because if you're willing to put in the work, baseball is beatable. I believe that is true. However, like I said, it takes a lot of work. It takes a very good model, and it takes patience, time, and effort. And if you're not willing to put that patience, time, and effort in, I wouldn't even bother. Now, like I said, I'm not saying don't bet baseball at all if you don't have a model. I'm just saying expect to lose. In fact, you're going to lose. And therefore, be real with yourself. Ask yourself this question. If I know I'm going to lose long term, is it still worth it? Well, that's a question you have to ask yourself. A lot of people justify their gambling vices by saying, I'm just doing it for fun, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about winning. I just want to have action on the game to make it more fun to watch. But tell yourself this. If you don't have any kind of model and you're just betting off the cuff, betting with your gut, betting on very basic elementary statistical analysis, ask yourself this. I know I'm going to lose long run. How much money am I willing to lose before it's not fun anymore? That's what people don't tell themselves when they bet for fun. I just want to have action on the game. How much money are you willing to lose until it's no longer fun, until where the action on the game is no longer fun? All right, ask yourself that. But if you're willing to put in the time and effort, you can build a good baseball model, but it takes time. My baseball model that I used last year was actually pretty successful, even though I felt like at the end of the season it was statistically flawed and I shut it down before the end of the year. It took a long time. The baseball model I've started to work on from scratch this season. I've probably been on it for about a week now, working on it here or there. Yesterday was the most amount of time I've worked on it. Probably spent about 6 hours on it yesterday. I'm making good progress, but I still have a long way to go. And it's no joke. Baseball is the toughest sport to model for. Now, NFL and college football, hardest sport to get data for, but if you have the right data, it's really not that hard. There's a reason I say that people should use basketball as their first sport to model, because the data is very easy to get, and it's not really that complex to break down and analyze the data. Now for baseball, a lot to break down, a lot to take into account. There's just a lot there that you have to take into account when it comes to making a good baseball model, and it's very complex. But the payoff is enormous if you can get there, if you have the patience to grind away. The data actually isn't that hard to get for baseball. There's free data sources out there that are very good for a baseball model, so that's not the hurdle. The hurdle is taking that raw data and figuring out what to do with it. Now, what can you expect with a baseball model? Well, let me show you the recap of my statistics from last year, which again, I felt like was a flawed model in the end. So here were the results of my baseball model last year. So I went from July 23rd to August 21st, so for about a month. And I made my model made 1,757 bets. These weren't bets I personally made. This is if I played every single game my model spit out without any keys or anything like that. If I played everything, this is what it would have been. And as you can see, what best value line means is that, my book was offering like for example, on the over, they would offer over 6, 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8, like 10 different numbers you could bet over for different levels of juice. And so when I say best value, it's whichever one my model determined, whichever one of those numbers that my model determined was the best bet from a value perspective. So that's what that means, because a ton of alternate lines were offered, and you couldn't bet them all. And so that's what this is a reasonable expectation on what to expect. So it did good on money lines, plus 21 units, pretty good on first 5 money lines, but not as good, plus 10 units, 7.7% ROI. Full game run lines was the best ROI at 11.8%, plus 24.51 units, assuming you bet 1 unit on every game. First 5 run lines, not so successful, actually negative. And then overs, I really struggled overall. Only full game overs, slightly up, 0.5% ROI, but everything else was down. Unders were a little bit more successful for the full game and first 5 team totals, but first 5 unders and full game team totals not so much, but first 5 team total unders, 11.2% ROI. So overall it was about plus 59 units, 3.5% ROI. If I were to have bet 1 unit on every single game my model spit out, I would have made 60 units last year, 3.5% ROI. Not bad, right? And that was with what I consider to be a flawed model. Like when I say flawed, I mean there are some things I feel like that didn't work, things I wanted to change. I feel like the player projection system for preseason player projections was not robust enough. I felt like some of the ways I did some splits were a bit too granular. So the reason I didn't go and fix them is because I was about to go on a 2.5-week road trip, and by the time I got back and everything, I wouldn't have enough time to fix it before the season ended. I just didn't feel like it was worth it. But even then, it still was pretty successful, and this was with a flawed approach. So I'm going back to the drawing board this year with here's my new model this year that I've been working on. As you can see, here's some of the code. I've made some decent progress so far. I'm still in the data processing phase. I collect the data, I clean it, I process it. So yesterday I did the park factors and weather, neutralizing those 2 things from player stats. I also did home advantage, neutralizing that, and I'm about to work on opponent adjustments today. So wrangling all the data, turning them, getting the splits, and park, all that. That's what I've worked on so far, and hopefully I can finish the adjustment phase today and the processing phase today and move on to the player projection system tomorrow. That's the plan. So I'm making good progress, but it's a lot of work, and I'm doing this all in Python. In case you're wondering what this is, it's Python. Last year it was all in R. I'm switching over to Python this year, so that's another reason I'm doing it from scratch. So that's what you can reasonably expect from a baseball model. Like I said, even though my model wasn't that great last year, it still did decent, And that's why when I'm going back to the drawing board this year, I knew what worked, what didn't work, what to do, what not to do. Like making a good baseball model is a marathon. And when I say marathon, it's going to be something you have to hone in over many seasons. Like I tried to do a simple Monte Carlo baseball model in 2019, and it has some success. And then last year I made it more complex, and it had success. And this year I'm making it a little bit more simpler, but a little more strong in some other areas and hoping to have better success. Like I said, trial and error. That's what it's about, making a model in any sport, trial and error, learning what works, learning what doesn't. learning from your mistakes and making sure to capitalize on what does work. That's what it all comes down to in the end. And baseball has the highest learning curve, but also the biggest payoff, which is why I endorse making a model for baseball to bet on, because if you can weather the storm and get to the point, then it should pay dividends for you down the road. But to recap the purpose of this video, because I'm sure a lot of people have gotten to this point and are like, well, you didn't say anything. I have a lot of baseball videos planned coming forward for this channel where I can teach some baseball concepts to help you build a model with. However, if you're not going to build a model, if you're not going to use a model, I strongly suggest you be very careful betting on baseball. I wouldn't even do it, because if you don't have a model, all your baseball bets are going to be minus EV. I mean, you might luck into some plus EV bets, but you're not going to know. And in the long run, it's going to grind you down and bury you. Trust me, guys, you don't want to lose all your bankroll before football season. A lot of people, like I'm a college football bettor, but a lot of people bet baseball during the summer and they have nothing to bet on when football comes around, their favorite sport to bet on. Trust me, guys, baseball is no joke. It is no joke. It's kind of like a video game. It's kind of like a final boss almost in a video game, where you can't fight the final boss until you have all the armor and weapons and everything else and experience you need to take it on, because baseball is like a final boss when it comes to betting. But the payoff is enormous if you can get it right. But if you're not willing to put in the time to build a good baseball model, I wouldn't recommend it. And that's my advice for you here on opening day of Major League Baseball 2021. It's a massive danger zone. But if you're willing to put in the effort, it can pay off. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother. Bet on baseball just for fun only, and then you have to ask yourself, when does it stop becoming fun? Because trust me, you're going to lose. Anyway, that wraps it up for this video. Again, stay tuned to Sports Betting Truth. I have a lot of baseball videos coming forward for this channel. I have at least 6 planned, and they're going to help outline some concepts and theories and ideologies when it comes to building a baseball model, stuff that I use personally, and I'm going to keep working on my baseball model. I'm going to work on some opponent adjustments today, hope to get that all done, and then I can move on to the player projection system. Anyway, I'm heading out. Until next time, this is Sports Betting Truth, signing off.